I'm going to tell you 3 fun facts about Marie. So her first language is French. She learned how to speak English by acting in British pantomimes as a child, and she is terrified of lightning. So hopefully no lightning tonight for Marie. Come on up here and share your story.
That's fun. I always get so much anxiety when people ask me for interesting facts. I'm like, oh, not sure I'm so interesting. All right, I'm Marie Chevrier, and as the introduction said, I'm the founder of Sampler. So, like the word says, Sampler distribute product samples for consumer packaged good brands. So we work with big brands like L'Oreal and Kimberly-Clark, but we also work with small emerging brands. That is the brand new granola bar, for example. And what we do is instead of handing out samples randomly on street corners, we target consumers digitally and we ship you free samples. So if you want free samples, go to sampler.io. That's the moral of the story. No, just kidding. So when I was going to talk about a fuck up today, I thought about it for a long time because I feel like as a startup founder, 5 years in going, there's been a lot of fuck ups. In fact, I use the hammer emoticon because sometimes running a business feels like you're playing whack-a-mole. You're like hitting something down and then 2 other things pop up. That's truly how it feels. And in fact, as I was preparing for this night, one of my friends this week messaged me. She's also an entrepreneur, and she wrote me this text. She said, "Have you ever wondered whether your company would survive? It's my current train of thought." And I answered, "At least once a quarter. It always survived." And it's been going on for 5 years. And so, first off, I want to be at that level of vulnerability with you today, and for you to realize that it's totally normal to sometimes be feeling like you're at the edge of a cliff, you're about to fall down, and there's nothing you could do about it. But I'll tell you, with 5 years of experience running Sampler, those are the moments where you and your team will be most creative. It's the moment where you'll all come together and do even more than you thought you could ever achieve. And so if I think about what makes a good entrepreneur, it's really about your ability to be adaptable, about your ability to show perseverance through these really, really, really tough times. And for me, one of the characteristics that has always been true of my personality, but certainly really true to my fuck up, is being transparent, right? Being really open about the fact that sometimes it's not a good patch and we all need to come together. So going into the story. So starting with the world emoticon. Moving forward, you'll see I'm only going to use emoticons. I'm really proud of it. So story starts with me wanting to start Sampler. So I had done product sampling early on in college, and I always felt that it really was something that wasn't predictable. Brands didn't know exactly who they were giving out samples to. Did the person purchase or not? We couldn't tell. And so fast forward several years, and I end up with the idea that I want to start Sampler. So the first thing I do is I go and sell a few customers. And I tell them I have this amazing app. You can distribute samples digitally. It's amazing. And they sign. So I sign my first customer, and I have 60 days to build this app I've been talking about. So that could have been a really bad fuck up. But lucky for me, I knew one developer in the entire world. And he lived halfway across the world. His name is Christian, and he lives in Germany. The funny thing about Christian and I is we had never met. We worked together at a previous job, and we had only communicated via Skype, but not even like with camera, like just the sound. And so I wrote him a Facebook Messenger message, creepy, and I say, hey, like, I have this project, I have an idea, do you have 15 minutes to talk? And he's like, yeah, in like 5 days. And so I'm like, okay, cool. And so I got 15 minutes with Christian. I prepared the 30-page PowerPoint about why he should join me, why we could work together, and we were going to build an amazing app. And I went through 2 of those slides. And he was like, you know what, I don't really have anything to do right now. I could probably jump on. So he became my co-founder, and we started Sampler. So I'm feeling like a hero after having totally taken a gamble and told this client that it would be up in 60 days. We didn't launch in 60 days because turns out it takes time to build product. But we ended up actually launching, and very quickly, Christian and I actually had done about $90,000 in sales, which in the first year is pretty impressive. And we still hadn't met. So after 90,000, we finally were like, okay, it's probably time we meet. I could afford a flight to Germany, so we went to Germany, and we started making a plan to raise financing. So after a couple months, very long time, we end up actually raising capital. We got a term sheet for $1 million. We were so excited. It was so exciting. And we were jumping up and down. We were finally going to build the team that we wanted to. And I'll always remember this. It was a Friday night. The money was going to come in on the Monday. We were just finalizing some papers. And one of the big things that was a condition of the investment was that Christian would come and join the Sampler head office in Toronto and move from Germany. And so I get a call. And it's Christian. And he says, Marie, I've been thinking about it for a long time. Me and my wife have talked. We can't move to Canada. And so literally, I had everything I possibly could have wanted. We had investors. They were amazing. We had our hiring plan. We had $1 million that was coming in. And that was a condition. So at that moment, I knew that I was fucked. Yes, the only place I could swear. And so I sat there for a very long time in the conference room, and I thought to myself, what should I do? Should I just pretend I didn't know? Should I just sign and then pretend it happened after? And I was going through all of this and thinking really hard. And then I made one of the most important decisions that I'll ever have made, which is I decided that if I was going to build this, I was going to be transparent. I was going to be transparent with the people that were coming in with me on this journey, and I was going to call my investor. So our first investor, her name is Michelle. She's now become more than just an investor, a friend. And Michelle, I called Michelle and I said, Michelle, Christian can no longer move. I think this means we can't get the investment. And she gave me this is how I felt. Sorry, I missed that emoticon. And this is the advice she gave me. So she said, Marie, tonight, go have a glass of wine. You had a long day. You should probably go have a glass of wine, forget about it, go to bed. But Monday, come back to me with a plan. You're going to have a plan, and we'll figure it out. And so what was really interesting is that Michelle, at that moment, had an opportunity as an investor to see if I could be these three things, right? She had an opportunity I had an opportunity to show her that I could be adaptable, that I could persevere, and that I would be transparent. And at the end of the day, that's all she could expect, because along the way, there's been literally probably 50 other moments like that felt very, very stressful, and that your investors will expect you to be transparent and be able to persevere. So the long story short is, at the end of the day, you're going to have a lot of this. And as I was saying at the beginning, you should always remember that it's in those moments that you're going to learn your greatest lessons, that you're going to show yourself things that you never thought you could actually do, yourself and your teams. And at the end of the day, I'm extremely thankful for every single one of those moments, because they all taught me so much. Thank you so much.
Marie, thank you so much for sharing your story. So now we're gonna give the mic over to you guys to ask some questions of Marie and dig a little bit deeper into that story. So who wants to ask the first question? Who wants to kick us off? Okay, we have one right there.
Hello. I think I'm just curious, what was the plan? Like, what did you end up telling her?
Yeah, I kind of left it hanging. Yeah, so to be honest, it wasn't that good of a plan. The idea is, it was. So I thought about. I looked up recruiters. I looked up the fees of recruiters. I added the fees of the recruiters into my budget. I thought of 3 other people that could help me interview developers. I talked to Christian about being involved in the transition plan from remote. I shouldn't say it wasn't a good plan, but it certainly wasn't like anything like super crazy enlightening. But ultimately, I thought about all the mini steps that could make her feel comfortable that even without a technical co-founder, I would be able to persevere. And listen, like I was actually telling this story to Mannix, who's one of our oldest employees at Sampler, and I found Mannix because of that. And he's still on the team and such an incredible portion of our team, and I couldn't be more grateful for that.
Thank you.
So you said that it sort of felt like you were at the edge of a cliff, and I'm curious to know what kind of support system you had, or what you used as support.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually, while I was in that room on fire at that moment, I called one of my friends and advisors who was an entrepreneur himself, and I said, I'm debating, do I say something and or do I not? And he was like, the biggest thing is you should never hide anything. Hiding things is not good. So I'd say then and ever since then, I've been really fortunate to be surrounded by other entrepreneurs that have been through these types of obstacles. And so I think that nights like this are so important because you have the opportunity to share your own experiences. Yeah. Oh.
You could do it all over again, 60 days to build an app. Instead of calling Christian in Germany, who you do virtually.
Yeah.
So I was just going to say, if you could do it all over again, 60 days to build an app, instead of calling Christian in Germany, who you only knew virtually, what would you do differently?
I wouldn't do anything differently because he truly was the best person to do it. We had, although it was virtually, we had built a lot of trust amongst each other, working on projects. I knew he had the skills, and I think anyone who's non-technical can definitely relate. It's I've hired bad developers before. If you're not technical, you have no idea. Someone could be hitting a keyboard for 90 days until I know if it's actually working, right? So for me to had been part of a project where he was successful at delivering something was really important. I'd say that was my only lifeline. And if anything, I think that's what made me more successful because I was literally standing with that as my only option.
Over here to your left.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey. I could have called Lighthouse Labs.
Hello. Oh, my question was, what did the investor, how did they react to your plan? And did they give you any advice on what you could do better or how you could modify that to adapt to this crazy situation?
Yeah, they did. So they actually proposed specific recruiters that they had experience with. They helped plan out. I was really aggressive in how quick I could actually find my talent. They helped me think through that it might not be realistic to hire 10 people in 3 months, and so they helped me think through a lot of that stuff, and that's super important. I actually think. Going through the first raise was was one of the most exciting. Like once you've found the right partner to give you feedback and to say like, let's raise the money together. Like I remember just how long we spent on the financial model, like them telling me like, no, that's not actually how it's going to happen, or like market for a salesperson is more like this, or things like that. And that was really, really valuable. Yeah. I love your jacket.
I wanted to ask you, a lot of people suggest now having a co-founder. So after you left, did you look for someone, or were you kind of like, I'm going to do it myself?
Yeah, by then I felt like, you know, we had gone through so much, and I decided to continue on my own. I'll say like right from the beginning, I had a really amazing team of sellers and marketers that were on the team. So I had a lot of support. Like I was able to hire everyone, but I certainly I kind of had felt that it was a lot to like have someone come in at that time and like to vouch somebody again and like their intentions and stuff. So I decided to go on my own. I'll say like it's not easy to be a sole founder because because it was so early on, I've always kind of said that I'm the founder, and I am I've been acting as a sole founder for 4.5 years, and it's not easy, right? Like it really does often just fall on you, and there's just a level of pressure that the founder feels, but I don't think that I'm less likely to be successful because I'm alone. I think that it's all about who you surround yourself with, and we've always had such an amazing team, and we've been very lucky to attract really great talent. Mm-hmm.
All right, so I have a question about Christian.
Oh,
How
God.
how do you speak to him still? B, how does he feel about missing out on Sampler, not being part of it? And C, if you could have, in hindsight, would you have wanted him to be part of this now, seeing how it all played out?
Of course, yeah. No, I think, we still talk. We still talk. He's still a shareholder of Sampler, which is awesome. And we still talk, and he actually stayed on as a contractor for a bit under a year after to support the platform. I think he's incredibly impressed and always excited to share and and all that stuff. And it was a life decision for him, and I totally respect it. And seriously, I would not have had any of these opportunities if he didn't say yes on that Skype call. So I'm incredibly grateful. There's one.
Do you think you can talk about your vision when you started the Sampler app? Why did you start it? What was the purpose? What's your goal with it?
Yeah, so product sampling, product sampling is actually, if you think about it from a marketing toolbox perspective, everything's been digitized, right? Advertisement, every content, everything's been digitized. But product sampling has stayed the same for so long. It's actually anywhere between 4% to 15 to 20% of a brand's marketing budget. It's a massive part of their budget, but they haven't digitized it. So it was always about how do we make product sampling attributable the same way that digital advertising is. And so that's always been the vision. It's expanded so much since the beginning. At first, we were just an app that you can install on Facebook. Eventually, we became a distributed technology. So now you can discover free samples via Snapchat, via Instagram, and we power those. And then you can also discover us on a big website. So, for example, we're on The Kit, so we power their sampling program. So now it's more like find us anywhere. And so Sampler now is the authentication for sampling. So if you want to get a free sample online, there's a lot of people that want free samples, and there's a lot of people that abuse it. So we're the centralized database that makes sure that you're not resampling across multiple sites. And whether you know it or not, you have a sampling score with us that tells us how likely you are to convert to a purchase from a sample. So we're kind of like the sample police for brands. Yeah, sorry, that's evolved. Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Great
Thank you.
questions.
Thank you so much. So we'll leave that as the last question. I think it's a great place to end. Marie, thank you so much again for sharing your story.